What Lies Beneath the Earth, Chapter 4. Sand started to replace the lush fields of grass as we got closer towards the range of mountains. And just beside it, a large, blackish building, the size of a couple stadiums if I had to guess. But I had to squint my eyes to see it in the distance. Compound seemed nervous.
Last time I came this way was when they told me and the other two ponies to check on that abandoned town.
She gave me a soft nuzzle and looked at me.
Never tried something this big, though.
She spoke her mind and ruffled my mane with a huff.
But I secretly always wanted to do this. Someday.
She rubbed her fronts together like an evil enchantress. Maybe we can convince some of them of our cause, and of course we have to free any captives. And this time, Compound, you'll see what happens when I make the first move on something. I gave her a grin of confidence, as well as trying to comfort her a little, and once again I had her total attention on what I was about to do. When invading occupied space, stealth was important. That meant scanning the area for traps, as well as getting close. And I had something up my mane that could deal with both. This had done so for many decades of successful wastelanding. My horn started to sparkle and wind started to pick up. Slowly at first, but growing steadily. Sand started to tremble, and the growing wind speeds eventually started to get strong enough to pick them up. I had to focus quite a bit to make it grow and seem like a natural occurrence. Compound shut her muzzle as to not breathe in any sand on accident. She clapped her hooves and she seemed quite impressed. We slowly approached the building while the sandstorm was surrounding us like a giant, dusty avalanche. And it was loud too. Loud enough to suppress an explosion of something I picked up, probably a mine of sorts. But we kept going, and I raised a weak shield of mine to ensure no pony saw us, although no pony ever had seen anything through this stuff. Without my eyes, but by feeling the sand, I could feel we were approaching some sort of bridge. A few more sounds of traps going off were heard as we kept up. Compound tagged behind me, as to not lose another in this artificial weather of mine. What the buck's going on? I heard voices, metal rending, and doors shutting. Hooves were moving, but there was one thing I still had to make sure they didn't have. We shimmied behind one another, over this bridge, until I felt something rocky and heavy blocking my way. But I wasn't certain what it was. It felt round. Maybe a wall? Oh, no, it was just a barricade of sorts, or possible ammunition to annihilate vehicles going through here, when fired via catapult, of course. We kept up until I ducked instinctively, but my shield held up this time. There were so many laser shots fired, that had to be at least 2 turrets. This shield, though, could take quite some abuse, for a few minutes at least. Compound looked at me, slightly worried, but I nodded at her and winked.
This bucking storm's triggering them, probably. Some rebel rolling around. Girls, some pony. You there, pick her. See if you find something.
I heard some mare complain. Some pony tried calming this down. Oh, it would calm down right to silence, actually. We got closer, and the turret stopped firing, telling me that we were below them, and that we had gotten out of range, probably by standing next to a wall. We heard steps. Was that the pony they sent after us? Or after the sandstorm? I nodded towards Compound as the silhouette of something got closer, and moments after, Compound knocked her out, while I cast another kind of shield, and we dragged her to the side of the wall. That shield was soundproof, by the way. Ponies had gone inside by now. None of them wanted to sit through the storm. And that overseeing pony from earlier hadn't come to look for the pony she sent. Lucky her. We found a rusty old vent on one of the sides of the walls. My favorite. Compound took the cover off, levitating it gently and closing it behind us as we climbed in. She didn't speak, but hugged me very tightly and rubbed her nose against my cheek, and I just winked at her. Gosh, she was adorable, even if we got this close in this place amongst all places to be. We crawled through these vents carefully. They were old after all, and no pony could know if they still supported pony weight after all these years. Voices. I couldn't make out where they came from, but it sounded like Compound didn't fall around when she said that there are hundreds of ponies in here. I had to try to get as many of them to join my cause as I could, but I wanted to go through their leader for that. Moments later, we found a little rusty cover and peeked through. An empty hallway. We waited a moment before passing through, deeper into the ventilation shafts. But we were halted by hoofsteps as we were about to go. So this really is the last slip-up, I hope. A young colt's voice was heard. Loudly at that, due to being in this ventilation.
Ya can't blame me. I ain't up for no more fuss. Better get my unicorn soon or the boss might fancy shipping both of us back to...
The rest was cut off, due to a door closing behind them. Very, very carefully, we crawled deeper. As Compound said, the captives were held somewhere deeper, and had to make sure those are safe. But I also had to find their boss, and well...
He has some office behind some door in the basement, and you need a chip card to get through.
She whispered as we stopped at another would-be exit. A bathroom, as it seemed. No pony here. I carefully put the cover back on as we came to light. I had some idea on how to get into this office and past that door, and it involved a full safe gamble. I wasn't certain, but I had a good gut feeling about my idea. Most of my plans were made up on the fly, and that may explain why I sometimes end up ahead of ponies. Compound nodded as she peeked out of the bathroom door. The coast was clear. There was a hallway, and a door on each the left and right side, and a double door at the far end. It felt safe, for now. We trotted carefully but swiftly. No turrets or anything here. The left door had apparently been repurposed to serve as a storage. Crates, shelves, and smaller boxes filled with tech stuff, ammo, and... I looked at Compound as I found a familiar design trap that managed to make a mess out of my hooves a while back. But I saw a chance here. Trapping magic users in here could be helpful, and knowing that this trap wasn't fatal and that I could heal anyone who'd got caught here, concluded my decision to bring this thing with me. The door across from here truly unveiled just what I had feared. It was another room for containment, but more so of the living kind. Fillies and colts, barely older than a few years, stuck inside of cages. That's what I got from a little peek, but just as I was about to enter the room, I heard hoofsteps approaching the big doors down the hall. We listened carefully as we were hiding in a crate with some shooty weapons. A door opened, but it wasn't this one.
All right, you little piles of rotten mush, eat up.
I heard some called say. The words were followed by a strong, slappy sound and a loud yelp. Compound looked at me, and she could tell I was pissed, probably because of my eyes folding down like I'm some sort of predator. I was not letting the most innocent ponies have to deal with this abusive and probably power-hungry lowlife pony. I nodded at Compound and stood guard in the hallway. She gently opened the door, and a loud thud later she came back out. The green earth pony had been knocked out, and Compound grinned at me as I came inside. The foals were staring at us. Some were whimpering. A red filly with some marks on her sides was sitting in a little corner and chewing on something that smelled like it was days old.
I promise I'll save you, little ones.
I looked at them closely. If I ever needed a reason to ruin this whole place, now I had been given that reason. The double doors were leading into a bigger room. There were many ponies, conveyor belts with rocks of sorts on them, and a stairwell leading upstairs.
He's up there,
She muttered as we peeked through that double door before I cast an invisibility spell. A lot like a stealth book, but well, quite a little more exhausting to use. Catch is we had to hold on to another. I didn't know how to cast this onto any pony that was separated for me. Carefully we managed to shut the door behind us, and tried going to those stairs, but had to dodge ponies, and quietly at that. A colt with big and heavy armor trotted past us, gazed in our direction, and looked away after a few moments. Lucky? The stairwell itself was made from metal stairs, and trotting up those, we might make more noise than you might think. Just as ideas ran out, some pony behind us came towards those stairs. We got out of the way and let the colt go. He made sounds as he trotted upwards, and we used that to trot after him in almost perfect unison. Arriving upstairs, we found quite a few options. There was a big door ahead of us and two ponies standing guard next to it, and holding some very big firearms. And there were also a few hallways leading away from this hub of sorts. The pony we had followed was trailing off into one of the corridors, but I was sure we had to get past those two ponies to reach that pony that I was looking for. But how I was going to do that? Well, I had something on me that I could use, but I wasn't going to use my ace just yet. I carefully trailed into one of the corridors while holding onto compound tightly, and carefully started to levitate those weapons to make it look like a fling. You could see my horn glow in casting this, even through my invisibility. The little rifle started tumbling down the stairs we came from. Ugh, what the buck? A red colt in steel armor muttered before he trotted downstairs. The other guard, a mare, was tagging along.
Some prank from some moron down there. Good thing I didn't see them.
I heard them say, just as we slipped past them. By the time they got back up, we were long past the doors. No pony was there to see them open and close. Sweat was forming on my forehead, as well as a very wide grin. I was still holding on to compound, but licked her nose because I felt like it, and suddenly I heard a
I told you you're awesome.
whisper and blushed. Ahead was a big door with a scanner and turrets hanging from the ceiling, probably ready to shred any pony with the wrong ID. Whoever was in there was afraid of something, apparently. None of us could really hack or sorts. My magic could probably break a door like that in no time, but not without getting every pony and turret in here turning us into Huffington cheese. But what if my plan I hatched earlier worked? I knocked on the door. I could hear the sweet mare behind me gulp and feel her nervousness, but this old-fashioned idea is all I had.
Huh? Don't you morons have cards?
I heard an angry voice as he opened the door and stepped out, looking around. His grim face turned into confusion. A black unicorn with an unusual cutie mark, a white orb of sorts.
Huh? I'm losing it.
The colt muttered before turning around and sealing the door, and us on the side we wanted to be on. I got closer and with a loud, deciding to ditch our cover. The poor fellow could barely react, as he was twitching on the ground underneath us. My invisibility wore off, and I stared at him, instantly cutting to the chase.
Why do you have to get ponies to work under these conditions for your own sake? Are they not worth a little more to you than being mind-boggled right off the bat? Guards,
He tried to speak, but his body was out of it. He was twitching and still in shock in more than one way. I needed him to speak and listen.
Answer me!
I cast another, quite stronger shock, his body steaming this time.
Buck,
We are trying to make a living for us. Why you poking your hoof in?
'Cause ponies are suffering and I'll cross anything to stand up for them if I have to. A third lightning struck him, just as strong as the last.
If you're going to kill me, just do it.
He looked at me. No, I don't kill ponies unless I must. I looked at him, understanding what needed to be said here. I know you want to make it through this wasteland, but you don't stand a chance with the following that you're getting through suppression. He coughed violently and blood started dripping from his mouth.
What am I supposed to do with an overlord who's ready to run you right over if you don't bow?
Tears. He was breaking. Something was up, and I was digging it all out of him. Then you find someone else. Something you believe in. Something you can feel like it's for you. I looked at him and put my bag down. And if you do need help with any work of sorts, or finding ponies that can work for you in this place, I know many ponies who would love to work if they got paid, of course. I got a confused look.
Big words, but can ya...
I levitated a health potion towards him, interrupting him, and he looked at it and swallowed. I probably hadn't done too much physical damage.
You seem to mean it, but... You hear? I don't know how I'm getting out of this pickle here. And same goes for, well, all those ponies here.
I'm capable with my magic. I'll take anything on. As I told you. All I got was a giggle, but it was in respect, or admiration if I had to guess.
Gotta give you credit for that, yeah, but... I really don't know how to change everything out of nowhere.
Just do it, boss. This pony's reliable, and everyone here could use proper food. Freedom and so on, you know?
Compound added while hugging me, unusually tight.
I was held here before, and you did show me a new kind of living. I don't ever want to go back to here.
Name's Ruby Rubble.
We shook hooves, and he looked at me. He looked like he had found something he had been looking for. An alternative. Many ponies gave us a very unsuspecting and outright suspicious look as we trotted back the way we came. But Ruby told them why we were here. None of them seemed to be bothered, and I felt Ruby's intentions were truthful. The cages of the innocent children opened very loudly as Ruby smashed the locks on the doors. The little ponies were skeptical, fearful, and uncertain of what this all meant to them. A red-coated filly unicorn slowly trotted outside and looked at us. Her ears were tilting downwards.
Is this okay?
She muttered, looking at Compound, then to me, and to Ruby.
It's fine, and how it's supposed to be, girl.
Compound looked at her while other ponies left their imprisonment. Compound very carefully tried petting one of their manes. The purple earth pony that she was trying to pet ducked out of instinct, like expecting some sort of punishment.
Please, no hurry.
Compound lowered her hoof and performed that universal thing every creature understood. She wrapped both of her front hooves around him and hugged. A confused look on his face turned into a smile and eventually giggle.
I've not seen this well since I've been alive. Thanks, you two.
Ruby looked at us. His eyes were watery. I had something with me to ensure they all understood where things were going from now on. I showed them one of the chocolate bars and split it amongst them very carefully. Probably the first nibble of this magical goodness for, well, all of them. And before we knew it, the room was filled with giggles and laughter.
Ruby, I know a medical pony who can help you nurse them, if needed, and a few workers for your mine as well.
I explained while letting the little ones understand their new options and possibilities.
I do have to ask, who taught you your magic and everything?
Ruby asked further. He wanted to know everything. I mean, getting past so many ponies did require some skills and a little luck as well.
Myself through many years, actually.
Compound giggled and smirked, and just stared at me.
And sure is the cutest one ever while using it.
She nuzzled me very closely while Ruby was watching, and even the foals were wondering what was going on. Ruby coughed with a rather firm and loud voice.
Because they have a lot to learn still.
I understood where he was going with this, and I've never been asked something like this before.
Sure, however, I insist you get a medical pony here to nurse them first.
You got it, boss?
The black unicorn looked at us, uncertain as to his own place.
Oh no, not boss. In fact, I will help you make decisions. I do think you know what really needs to be done, but in a place where suppression reigns supreme, it's easy to lose sight of what matters.
I clarified my intent. I wanted to reform this place, and if I wanted to do so, I would have to start with him understanding responsibilities differently.
Do the nice ponies with the chocolate and Huff Pushy come back soon?
The foal that Compound was hugging asked us. Ruby headed outside, probably to spread the word.
We will, little ones. In fact, the pony who has got us this chocolate will be coming with us the next time we come.
They all collectively cheered. I yawned loudly. I was really exhausted from all the spell casting and the long day. And one cast of a teleportation later, we were right back outside of New Appaloosa.
Can't believe I was lucky enough to run into a sweet and kinda hero-like pony like you, out of all ponies to catch me off guard.
Compound chuckled and leaned towards me, and we kissed out of what felt like instinct, and I blushed brightly. I haven't gotten one of those, probably longer than the foals from that place haven't had chocolate.
Old and still awesome.
She teased, grinning widely and ruffling my mane as we returned home under the afternoon skies, ready to talk to Septic. Today it felt like we made leaps towards reuniting this land.